Right now, somewhere in your house, there's a table with a white ring on it. Maybe it's been there so long you don't even see it anymore. You just set your coffee cup down next to it out of habit. Or maybe it's fresh, from last Thanksgiving, when somebody set a hot dish straight down without a trivet, and you didn't have the heart to say anything at the time. I'm Robert. I'm 102 years old. And let me tell you something my grandmother told me back when Roosevelt was still president. The first one, mind you, not the second. She used to say that mark isn't really in the wood at all. It's trapped right under the surface, like frost on a window in January. You know how frost sits on the glass and the glass itself is fine underneath? That's exactly what's happening on your table. Now, I've seen a lot of folks, good, sensible folks, take one look at that cloudy ring and decide the whole table's ruined. I watched a neighbor of mine, must have been 1962 or so, haul a perfectly good cherry dresser out to the curb because of a heat mark the size of a saucer. Perfectly good dresser. Solid wood, dovetail joints, the kind of thing you can't buy anymore for love or money. And he just gave up on it because he thought the damage went all the way through. It didn't. It almost never does. So before we go any further, I want you to understand what that white mark actually is, because once you understand it, everything else I'm going to tell you today will make sense on its own. You won't need to memorize 6 different tricks. You'll just understand the problem, and the fixes will feel obvious. See, wood furniture, the good kind anyway, isn't bare wood you're looking at. There's a finish on top, a layer of lacquer or varnish, or shellac if it's older furniture, sitting on top of the wood like a coat of ice on a pond. When something hot sits on that finish, a coffee mug, a casserole dish, a curling iron your teenager set down without thinking, the heat doesn't burn the wood, not usually. What it does is it causes a little bit of moisture to get trapped right there in that finish layer, and trapped moisture scatters light instead of letting it pass through clean. That's why it looks cloudy and white instead of shiny like the rest of the table. It's not a wound, it's fog, and fog lifts. Now here's a little thing I picked up from my grandmother's kitchen that most people never think about. The color of the stain tells you everything. If it's white or grayish or has that milky, frosted look to it, good news. You're only dealing with the finish. That's fixable, and I mean genuinely fixable most of the time. Without sanding, without refinishing, without spending a dime you don't have to spend. But if that mark is dark, black, almost like a burn, that's a different animal entirely. That means the heat got past the finish and actually scorched the wood fibers underneath, and no amount of hair dryer or mayonnaise is going to pull that out, because it's not moisture sitting on the surface anymore. It's damage sitting inside the wood itself. We'll come back to that. But most of what you're looking at on your own table, the little rings from glasses, the pale blotch from a hot pan, that's the fixable kind. And the first tool I want to give you, the one that works more often than anything else in this whole list, is one you already own, your hair dryer. I know how that sounds, but stay with me a second. A hair dryer on its lowest heat setting does something very simple. It gently warms that trapped moisture until it evaporates right back out of the finish, the same way frost disappears off your windshield once the sun gets on it. You're not melting anything, you're not stripping anything off, you're just coaxing that moisture to leave. Here's how you do it, and this part matters. Set the dryer to low heat, not medium, not high, low, and hold it about 6 inches from the stain. Keep it moving the whole time, in slow little circles, the way you'd wave a fan over a campfire. Never let it sit still on one spot, not even for 3 or 4 seconds. If you park that heat in one place, you'll soften the finish too much, and you'll trade one problem for a worse one, a soft, gummy patch that feels tacky under your fingers for a week. Most stains start fading somewhere around the 2 or 3 minute mark. Full disappearance, in my experience, and in what folks online report too, usually happens somewhere inside 10 minutes, sometimes less. You'll actually watch it happen, which is a strange and satisfying thing. The cloudiness just sort of recedes, like breath fading off a mirror. Now, some of you are going to try this, and it's going to work like magic. And some of you are going to try it and get partial results. That's normal. Older finishes, or finishes that have already got some wear on them, don't always respond the same way as a newer, healthier finish would. Which brings me to the next method, because if the hairdryer only gets you partway there, this next one usually finishes the job. Mayonnaise. Now I can already hear some of you laughing, and that's fine. Laugh. My late wife laughed the first time she saw me do this too. But there's real logic behind it. Mayonnaise is mostly oil, and oil does something the hairdryer can't do. It slowly works its way down into the pores of that clouded finish and physically displaces the trapped moisture, pushing it out the way water gets pushed out of a sponge when you squeeze in something thicker. You spread a good thick layer right over the stain. Don't be shy with it, and then you leave it be. Now this is different from the hairdryer trick because this one takes patience. A few hours at minimum. Some folks leave it on overnight, and honestly, overnight tends to give the better result. Then you wipe it away with a soft, damp cloth, going with the grain of the wood, not across it. And I'll tell you something plainly because I'd rather you hear it from me than find out the hard way. This one doesn't work the same on every wood. There was an experiment done on walnut where the mayonnaise didn't lift the stain at all. Instead, the oil actually left its own tint behind on the wood, made things a little worse rather than better. Walnut's a darker, more porous wood, and it seems to react differently than the lighter woods do. So before you slather mayonnaise across your grandmother's dining table, test it first, someplace hidden. Underneath, on the back edge, somewhere nobody's going to be looking at your Thanksgiving table. All right, if the hairdryer and the mayo together haven't fully cleared things up, and sometimes they won't, especially on an older piece, there's a third option, and this one works a little differently. It's not about moisture at all. It's about gently smoothing the very top layer of the finish so the light stops scattering. You mix 1 part toothpaste with 2 parts baking soda, plain white toothpaste, not the gel kind, and regular baking soda from the box in your fridge. That gives you a mild paste with just enough grit in it to work. Dab a little on your finger, your actual finger, not a rag, and rub it into the stain in small circles, gentle pressure, nothing aggressive. What you're doing is polishing down that microscopic cloudy layer just enough that it reflects light evenly again, instead of scattering it every direction. Wipe it clean with a soft cloth when you're done, and you'll usually see the stain is faded down to almost nothing. Now, here's where I'll be honest with you about something, because I think it matters more than any of these tricks. Press too hard with that paste, and you can actually scratch straight through a thin finish. So light touch, always light touch. If your fingertip is getting tired, you're pressing too hard. There's a fourth method too, one my grandmother swore by before toothpaste was something you bought instead of made. Equal parts vinegar and olive oil, mixed together and wiped on with a soft cloth, always moving in the direction of the wood grain, never against it. The vinegar cuts through the trapped moisture a bit, softening it, while the olive oil follows right behind and seals the wood back up. Gives it a little shine back, too. This one's gentler than the others, which means it's better suited to lighter, newer stains, the kind that showed up last month, not the ones that have been sitting there since the Nixon administration. On a deep-set old stain, vinegar and oil alone usually won't get you all the way there. Now, there's one more method out there that gets talked about a lot, and I want to walk you through it carefully, because it's the one most likely to backfire on you if you're not paying attention. That's the iron and towel trick. Here's how it's supposed to work. You lay a slightly damp towel over the stain, and you press a warm iron on top of it for a few seconds at a time, lifting and checking constantly. The idea is the iron creates a little bit of controlled steam that draws the trapped moisture out through the towel instead of leaving it stuck in the finish. And it can work, but I've heard from more than one person where it went sideways on them. There was a fellow on Facebook who tried this, got the original heat mark to disappear just fine, and then found himself staring at a brand new problem, a big, dull, hazy patch where the iron had been, worse than what he started with. His words, near enough, that worked to remove the heat spot, but it left me with a giant dull area instead. So if you try the iron, keep it moving. Keep checking under that towel every few seconds. And the second you see any new dullness forming, stop. Some finishes just don't want that much heat, even with a towel between them. Now, before you go grab any of these off your kitchen counter, do the color test I mentioned earlier. Every single time, no exceptions. Look at that stain in good light. White, gray, cloudy, foggy. Good. Every method I just gave you has a real shot at fixing it. Dark, blackish, almost like a shadow burned into the wood. Set the hairdryer down. That kind of mark means the heat went past the finish and into the wood grain itself, and no amount of mayonnaise or toothpaste is going to pull a scorch mark out of solid wood. That one needs sanding and a fresh coat of finish over top. There's no shortcut for it, and I won't pretend there is. I want to be straight with you about a couple other things too, because I've seen enough of these videos online promising the moon, and I'd rather you go in with your eyes open. I saw one furniture company's blog claim their version of the hairdryer method restores, and I'm quoting this, up to 95% clarity on cherry wood finishes. Now, I don't know where that number came from. Nobody else seems to know either. It's not in any study I've come across. It's just sitting there on one company's website looking official. So take that particular number with a grain of salt the size of a boulder. These methods work. I've seen them work with my own eyes more times than I can count. But nobody, and I mean nobody, can promise you a precise percentage on a piece of furniture they've never laid eyes on. And there's a couple other places these tricks fall short. If you've got an older piece, an antique, something with a soft or a waxed finish rather than a hard modern lacquer, these methods can do more harm than good. A soft finish can gum up under the hairdryer's heat or absorb the oil from the mayonnaise in a way that leaves a permanent mark instead of lifting one. If you've got real teak furniture, the kind treated with teak oil rather than lacquer, skip the mayonnaise and the vinegar oil mix entirely. Those oils don't play nice with a teak finish, and you'll end up with blotching instead of a fix. Always, always test in a hidden spot first. The underside of the table, the back leg, somewhere your mother-in-law isn't going to be inspecting come Sunday dinner. None of these methods are going to work on every table, every time, on every kind of wood. I wish I could tell you they would. But when they do work, and they usually do, on the ordinary white heat rings most of us are dealing with, they save a piece of furniture that would have otherwise ended up at the curb, same as my neighbor's dresser did all those years back. And that dresser, by the way, somebody else picked it up off his curb that same afternoon, cleaned it up, kept it for 30 more years, far as I ever heard. That mark that made him give up on it turned out to be nothing at all. So before you carry anything out to the garbage, give it 10 minutes with a hairdryer first. Give it a jar of mayonnaise overnight. That table's probably got another 50 years left in it. It's just been waiting for somebody to ask that moisture, kindly, to move along. Now go take a look at your own table, the one you've been walking past for years, pretending you don't see that ring. Tell me down in the comments which of these actually pulled the stain out for you, and which one let you down. I read every one of them, even if it takes me a while these days. And next time, I want to show you what my grandmother did about the scratches and the little chips that show up on old furniture over the years. There's a way to hide most of them with nothing more than walnut oil and a bit of patience. But that's a story for another day.